Welcome back to another beautiful day in the land of music. My name is Douglas, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about the newly announced Nord Piano 6. What is going on in the wonderful world of Nord? I don't know, but we've had two back-to-back Fridays now with new gear releases from them. Now, this is all leading up to the NAMM Show 2025. And this will be the first year I'm actually going to the NAMM Show for a couple of days. Really excited for that. And if you want updates, because I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna be getting updates on some of this new gear that's out there. If you want to stay updated, I'll be posting some stuff on this channel after next week on what I've discovered and found out for these different new boards that have been announced. So if you want to subscribe so you don't miss any of those updates, feel free to do that if you haven't already. But when we look at what Nord is doing here over the last few years, really I think it started with the Wave 2 is introducing these volume sliders or faders rather than the traditional that's been around for years volume knob on each of your sections, as well as this A and B layer, trading that for layers that are right on the front panel. Now, the only one that's left out of this whole group of keyboard lines is the Electro line. So we'll see. I'm not gonna speculate at all about next week, but it would be really cool if they updated the Electro to kind of fit this new layout that they're doing. So they've been updating the Nord Stage 4. They brought in some new effects. They brought in these layer faders and just a different way of doing things that's more efficient and just more conducive to live playing. But if we look at the Piano 6 and the Grand 2, they're now very similar, except for, of course, the key bed. Grand 2, you have the Kawai action. Piano 6, you just have that weighted triple action key bed. I don't know if it's updated from the previous piano version. That is TBD. But the overall Piano 6 is a little bit lighter, a little more portable than the Grand 2. But functionality-wise, they're really similar in what they're able to do, which is not a bad thing in my opinion, because I really love how the Nord Grand 2 does its layering, what it includes for features. And I think having the piano line just kind of carry that forward makes a lot of sense. And while it may not be an immediate upgrade for you from a Piano 5, there's not a ton of difference between the two. There are some, but I don't know if it's enough to make the jump for anyone else that's jumping into the piano line new. Getting the 6, you get kind of the updated interface and the updated features that Nord's starting to roll out across their whole line. So let's jump over to the computer. Let's take a look at some of the pictures of the Piano 6. I'm going to talk about Piano 5 versus Piano 6. And then, of course, as NAMM rolls in next week, hopefully I'll be able to get more details to share with you guys on both the Organ 3 and the Piano 6, and who knows what else that I'll find at the NAMM Show that's interesting. So you can find all the information that's out currently on the Nord Piano 6 on nordkeyboards.com, the official website for Nord. You can see here we've got the same two models as the Nord 5. Both of these are the triple sensor hammer action keybeds, 88 and 73 key versions. If we come down to the feature highlights, I'm not going to read through all of these. Instead, we're going to look at the pictures. I'm going to talk about what's new, what's changed. It does come with a triple pedal 2 instead of the triple pedal 1, which is nice. And so let's jump over to the pictures and let's look at the Piano 6 versus the Piano 5. So if we look at the overall layout of the Piano 6, you'll notice compared to the Piano 5 that the backgrounds, the labels, the layout is very similar to the Nord Stage 4 and the Nord Grand 2 with kind of these UI visual updates here. And then if we look at the center here, this program section, one thing that's interesting is the store button is over here to the right. Whereas on the Piano 5, it's to the left, the Nord Stage 4 is to the left, the Nord Grand 2 is to the left. I don't know if they're trying to keep it with the program button. And on the Nord Grand 2, there's just not room to put the store above the program buttons. Here they've moved that over to the right-hand side of the screen. Nord Stage 4, it's on the left side of the screen with the store above it. So there's a little bit of kind of a difference there in layout. But one thing we have with the Piano 6 is we've got 6 quick buttons down here, and those are also your live modes compared to 5 on the Piano 5. If we look at the layering, that's another big difference here. Again, it's more of a control layout difference, not necessarily functionality. You had layers A and B in the piano and sample synth sections with these 2 buttons, and then a volume knob or encoder for each of those volume levels. Whereas on the Piano 6, same as the Stage 4, same as the Grand 2, those have been brought out into these volume faders with the LED indicators, the quick buttons for the layer selects. So I really like that flow. That works really well on the Stage 4 and the Grand 2. So excited to see it here on the Piano 6. The effects as well have been updated with some additional effects and functionality, and the fact that they apply to each layer individually. Now, one thing I'm seeing, which seems to be the same as the Nord Grand 2, is we have this layer send here on the global reverb. So to me, let me zoom back out, this reverb, the type, the bright dark, and the pre-delay choral settings are global, and then you can set the actual dry wet send individually for each layer. The Grand 2 was the same way. Stage 4 was not. It had individual reverb per layers. I wish they would do that, but here we are. Looks like it's that global reverb again. So a little bit more flexibility on the effects, as well as we're looking at, some of the reverb settings. Get some additional things in there with the Piano 6. Not a huge upgrade, but it is nice that those effects can be applied, and you have that same functionality with the Stage 4 and the Grand 2, and that the effects follow what the active layer is and all of that good stuff. As we look at the piano section, I don't really see a lot of difference between the Piano 5 and the Piano 6. Let me zoom in on that for you, and then zoom in on that. Just a layout difference, and if we come over to here, it's just a rearrangement of the buttons essentially. And if we come over to the sample synth, one thing that I'm noticing is on the Stage 5, you had the timbre settings within the sample synth. You have that as well on the Nord Grand 2 that was carried over. But if we look at the Piano 6, I don't see timbre settings anymore, which is something I use quite a bit on the Nord Grand 2. And I don't know if that's just hidden somewhere else or if they did away with that. If they did, that's a little bit of a disappointment from the Piano 5. But everything else looks the same. The only difference, which is interesting, is the Grand 2 has the same as the Piano 5 with this combo decay release knob, and they've broken that out to 2 separate knobs within the Piano 6. So interesting adjustment there. So now you have your envelope settings instead of just 2 knobs. So again, I don't think it's a huge deal. They both function the same in the end. I just give you a touch more flexibility having them separated out on the Piano 6. Coming over to the middle, again, I already talked about the difference location-wise of buttons, but we've got that extra 6th button down below the screen, which is live mode as well, compared to the Piano 5, which only had 5. And then, of course, the effects, if we look at those. And then looking at the effects sections, just a different layout in terms of the backgrounds of these, and a couple of new things like the spin effect is new with the Piano 6, and some new delay settings, as well as the spring reverb, and just a little bit more that you can do around the effects, as well as the flexibility for the layers. So those are really kind of the big differences between these. Let's look at the back. Looking at the back of these, this is a Piano 6. We have a different arrangement of the inputs and outputs. So compared to the Piano 5, your volume control pedal and your sustain pedal are over here, whereas they've moved over to this section on the Piano 6. You have the triple pedal dedicated port here. You still have the sustain pedal, volume control pedal. So those are the same. You do get a foot switch. That's not on the Piano 5. Monitor ins moved, locations, your left out, your right out, and your headphones. You still have all of those. MIDI in, out, and USB. So really, you get a foot switch port, and then you get the triple pedal dedicated port. That's really the difference there on the back of this. So as you can see, it's not a huge update from the Piano 5 to the Piano 6. I would say if you have the Piano 5, it's going to be maybe a more difficult decision to say, do I upgrade to the Piano 6? Is it worth those extra few features? Is it worth the updated design? That's only something you can answer. With the Nord Grand 2, I don't feel a need to jump to the Piano 6 because I have all of those features here. It's the same piano library, same sample synth library, and they're aligned now in terms of where those two keyboards sit with this modern interface that Nord's starting to roll out. I'll talk more in future videos on Nord Piano 6 versus Nord Grand 2 and give you an idea of, if you're looking for more of a dedicated piano that has some sample synth capabilities, which one is better for you. But I want to hear from you on the Nord Piano 6. What do you think of this announcement? What questions do you have that maybe I can answer at the NAMM show or even in some future videos? So let's chat about it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay inspired and keep making that music. Let's play a little bit of the White Grand here on the Nord Grand 2 to exit this video.